late Walter Jones, Republican from North Carolina. Unfortunately, Mr. Jones passed in January of 2019. Mr. Jones, for people who aren't familiar with him, he was his father had been a member of Congress. He took over basically his father's seat in southeastern North Carolina, which is where Camp Lejeune is, the second largest Marine Corps base in the country. And, Mr. Jones is the one who came up with the Freedom Fries. He was so for the war on Iraq that when the French said they weren't going to take part in the war on Iraq, he demanded and got the House cafeterias to rename the French fries to Freedom Fries. And that's the kind of pro-war guy he is. And then Walter Jones, who is attending all of these funerals for these Marines at Camp Lejeune. One of the few members of Congress who I know did that. Reminds me to tell you one other thing about the politicians, and I'll wrap it up on the politicians. He's attending these funerals, and he has literally a kind of a road to Damascus moment. He is driving back from the one of the funerals. He is so shaken and overcome that he has to pull his car off to the side of the road. And he just realizes he cannot go along with these wars anymore, and he knows what that means in terms of political consequences. To his benefit, he becomes quite possibly the strongest anti-war member in Congress, along with people like Ron Paul or Barbara Lee or Jim McGovern or some others. But he is definitely, and particularly after Ron Paul leaves Congress, he is it. He is the most committed, I think, anti-war in the sense of ending the wars overseas. But, he says, one thing that they do to him is Jones becomes the longest serving member of Congress without a committee or subcommittee chairmanship. So they punish him because he's not going along with the wars, because he's not doing what the Republican Party wants him to do. He gets to a point where he is just on committees, but he has he's not given any chairmanships, right? I mean, so he's effectively cut out. And I remember having lunch with Mr. Jones in would have been fall of 2017. He brings me into he was always very good to me, and he brings me into the House dining room, the really nice Capitol dining room, and he tells me that he tells me how he has been basically he has been a warning to others in the Republican Party, in the Republican House caucus, not to do what he's done. And he's had members of Congress tell him, he didn't tell me which ones, but he's had members of Congress tell him that, hey, Walter, I believe what you're saying. I agree with you on these wars. But if I follow your lead, they're going to strip me of my committee chairmanships. They're going to punish me like they did you. I'm going to be a pariah like you, and I have other priorities. I've got things I want to try and do. Plus, I want to be reelected and other things. I think it's a testament to Jones that even after he becomes very anti-war, very vocally anti-war, his district, which is Camp Lejeune, continues to reelect him over and over and over again. I think that's very telling, and I think people should really glean from that what they can. But, Jones, so there's this threat that if you don't go along with the leadership, that you're going to be, excised, you're going to be excluded, you're going to be basically put on the fringe, and they're going to do everything they can. And they did. They primaried Jones a couple of times, and he survived and everything. But when he died, there were many people in the House leadership who were happy he was dead. The other aspect of Jones tells me is that basically what these other members tell him when he says, is basically it's like, hey, look, Walter, either I go along with you and what you're saying, or I go along with the House leadership says. And it's not really for, again, these are politicians. They're going to do the calculus, and they're going to go with what is best for them.